Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 38 of On the Flank. I'm one of your hosts, John George, alongside Joe Kirkpatrick. Say hello, Joe.
Hey, everybody.
And Joe, the San Francisco Shock have finally made it. All that hard work. I remember back in stage one when the San Francisco Shock were a completely different team. And now they've fostered their young players. Super and Sinatra turned 18. They started performing super well last season. They've added some insane players, including Stryker, who has not barely played at all, even though he was the best player last year to many. But that doesn't matter. Their starting roster is fantastic. They're one of the best GOATS teams, and now they can be considered the best GOATS team because they have beat the Vancouver Titans, Joe. And 4-2. They didn't even have to go to 7 games.
It's true, yeah.
They're looking great.
It's what happens when you only drop 3 maps in an entire stage.
Yeah, exactly right. And I gotta say, most of the players on this team are looking like top form right now. And I think it's hard to stop their momentum. It's hard to see the Vancouver Titans beating them again. After that, such an amazing stage, and then a 4-2 win, where there were points where Shock looked a little bit off, but most of the time the Titans looked pretty off, especially towards the end of it. So this definitely wasn't a 7-game. It was close. It was 6 games, but the Shock came out on top in the end. But we are going to talk about this eventually. We'll go in depth, Joe. But first, we should start with the beginning of the week, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes complete sense. Unfortunately, me and you kind of, I feel like we hyped up these first round games, and there wasn't anything too close, Joe.
Unfortunately,
no. Like I said, the Shanghai Dragons did take 1 map off the San Francisco Shock, and it was 3-1. I predicted that exact sort of thing. It's cool to see improvement, especially since in the next round, there hasn't been too many teams that have taken maps off of San Francisco Shock. Only 2 this stage, and it's the Vancouver Titans and then the Shanghai Dragons, Joe. That's pretty coveted, right? To be the Shanghai Dragons.
Not what you would have expected. I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah. I mean, when do we, Joe, can we officially strip Shanghai Dragons, this iteration of the Shanghai Dragons of that stage 1 sort of, or not stage 1, season 1 expectation of they're awful? Can we say that this team is at least mid-tier now, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we said that like in August practically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not obviously a different team, but a much better team for sure.
I'm going to give them different expectations now, Joe. And I promise, listeners, Joe, anyone out there, I will no longer be referencing the Shanghai Dragons Season 1 when I talk about their expectations. Because this is a new team. And I expect a lot more from them, as everybody should. Hangzhou Spark upset the London Spitfire. I think both of us picked the London Spitfire in this game, Joe. But the Hangzhou Spark came out on top. Much like the first game of the day there, the London Spitfire took the first map, but were unable to take the rest of the maps, just like the Shanghai Dragons. And they were unable to take any points as well. Full held on everything.
Yeah, it was not looking great for London. I mean, this back and forth. We saw really good stuff from Gushue in particular. For Hangzhou, got lots of playtime. Really popping off on the Winston, which obviously is his thing. But yeah, it's it's almost like where was this Spark team all the rest of the stage? But on the other hand, people are pointing out that London did have a relatively easy schedule this stage. I don't have it off the top of my head, but um, so that this might have been, and you know, realistically ended up being like one of their harder matchups this stage here in the playoff semifinals. So
Yeah. London did have a very easy schedule. They were looking a lot better this stage, but I guess they're not quite there yet. But as we talk about with London all the time, they don't have to be there until the end, apparently. So, um, in London, this is a loss in the stage playoffs is never disappointing for London, especially when you have like a 6-1 stage. You're still keeping up with the playoffs here, and they'll probably make it at the end of the year. Yeah, over on the Hangzhou Sparks side though, really impressed. I always get upset. The one thing I noticed this weekend is I've been just so attached to Zenyatta Transcendence timings. I don't know why I've attached myself to this. I don't think it's always the determining factor of whether or not someone wins a fight, but I think it's a pretty high determining factor whether or not someone wins a fight and there's a graviton on the other team. Um, but I think Bebe's been pretty meh on Transcendence timings. I almost always, and this was in the Soul game too, and the Shock game. I think almost always he's using it before the other team uses their grav, and I think that's lost them many fights, which is upsetting to me. But the rest of this team is has not been upsetting to me. It's not that upsetting. Bebe's a great Zen too. I've just attached myself to this Joe. I don't know it's like an OCD of Zenyatta transcendences here. Um, but yeah, that's I think this team's looking good. I love Gouchway, and we know that they're fantastic in scrims. I think it's just almost stage fright that has been going on with them. So I think the more they improve, the more comfortable they'll feel on stage.
that makes sense, I think. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I don't know if you can really call it. Oh, this is just the expansion team sort of frustration that we sort of predicted at the beginning of the season. Now that we're halfway through it, but yeah, it's trying to feel yourself out. It's reasonable, I would think, even um, again now that we've hit the halfway point.
It's kind of weird though, Joe, because I think like every other expansion team, did the opposite of the Hangzhou Spark, and apparently didn't have stage fright at the beginning, and then they all just started doing awful in stage two for some reason. So,
It's true.
it yeah, like Atlanta Reign, Toronto Defiant, all those teams decided they really didn't. They all of a sudden had stage fright out of nowhere, Joe. Maybe Hangzhou Spark gave it to them.
Yeah,
But let's
there
move
can
on
only
to
be one.
yeah. Let's move on to Friday. Let's start off with a match I expected to be a lot closer, and I expected the Los Angeles Gladiators to take, and I believe you did as well, Joe. But New York Excelsior apparently are only bad against the Atlanta Reign because they clean swept the Gladiators here 3-0. I don't think the Gladiators look particularly bad. I think the Excelsior just look good. I think this team's good.
Yeah,
I mean,
which we've to the casual listener, it seemed like we've been back and forth on them a lot. Um,
yeah,
at this stage, but I mean they've to an extent they've just been back and forth as a team. I
yeah.
mean,
Honestly,
yeah, it's because obviously New York is a good team. It's just a matter of when they can play well and when they had the motivation to play well. And I think coming off of two losses in a row to Atlanta, and lots of doubts rising in people's minds. I mean, that's a way to get you to perform, I guess.
yeah. I definitely. I have mentioned that New York. I don't think NYXL is top of the a part of the big three. I still agree with that. Because I don't think there's a big three. I think there's a big two. Because I think Vancouver and San Francisco Shock are in their own tier. If this was a tier list, I think New York Excelsior's a tier below. So I don't think there's a big three necessarily still. But I do think NYXL is top three. We can say that now. But I don't know. I just thought that the Los Angeles Gladiators looked better than them this stage, especially when they dropped two maps in a row to the Atlanta Rain, and they've been having playoff troubles. I think it was a reasonable pick to pick the Gladiators, but I forgot about the Gladiators' playoff troubles too. They have yet to win stage playoff or regular playoff game ever, Joe. Never.
which is a little concerning. I mean, they did win the one series in the postseason last year, but against London, but to
Yeah,
to come back and lose, that um, maybe it hardly counts. It's hard to say, um, but yeah, really, just I mean, outplayed to an extent here by New York, and
yeah,
it's both these first 2 days really short matches all the way through.
yep. Dallasfield got 3-0'd by Vancouver in the next game, which I think we all expected. Yeah, like I said last week, Dallas will take stage playoffs and lose a loss to Vancouver. That's unfortunate. They had to play Vancouver, especially as the sixth seed. So
Yeah, it's probably the least surprising matchup of the however many there were, six or something,
yeah, yeah, definitely.
7, I guess.
Hopefully we get to see Dallas against a more challenging schedule and see what they can do against some top tier teams here. We get to see that against Vancouver. I don't think they can have a chance against Vancouver or Shock, but I'd like to see them against like NYXL and these other teams that aren't necessarily top tier to see exactly where Dallas Fuel is, to see if they deserve this sixth seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we moved on to Saturday, which were the semifinals. Something about quarterfinals and semifinals that just none of them have none of them have really been going the limit, Joe.
No, not yet. I mean, I think we've done what, 5 maps is the most probably it's been
Yeah, which is
so far
sad.
this season.
It's very sad, but I think we traded off for a fantastic finals all the time. And it's also just because the top two teams are so above everybody else that the semifinals are just going to be blowouts. So I guess it's not a bad problem to have, Joe, because we get a fantastic finale every
It's
time.
it's true. If we just sacrifice the rest of the games for the quality of that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the first one was Hangzhou Spark versus San Francisco Shock. Joe, I don't know about you, but I came into this game with like way too much belief that the Hangzhou Spark could possibly do this. I was like, God, they're having a good end of the stage here. They're on fire. They could do this, and
Yeah, I mean, if you
then
watch that London game, that's not an irrational feeling. I mean, the, they had a really solid really solid match there, but to come up and if your opponent goes from the London Spitfire to San Francisco Shock, that's a significant jump in difficulty and in complexity. Um, but yeah, it's
yeah, I will say the Spark looked not themselves the first three maps of this game at all. They looked it looked like stage fright came back. They were all playing pretty poorly, and they didn't. I mean, it showed they did not take a single point until the fourth map on Gibraltar, where they ended up going the full 3 points, and they looked a lot better at that point. And I think everyone was saying, okay, like Hangzhou's finally started to play, but it's way too late. It's map four, so
you
it's yeah.
usually don't want to wait that long. Yeah.
Yeah, usually map one is when you're gonna want to start playing the game. That's when the match officially starts, is what I've heard. So yeah, Hangzhou Spark,
Hot
4-0.
takes on this show.
Yeah, very very hot takes. Tweet at us if you disagree, and we'll flame you guys. Yeah, Hangzhou Spark 4-0. I think we all expected them to lose to San Francisco. I wanted to be a little bit closer. And then this next match, I think we very much expected to actually be close, and maybe I think there were some people who thought NYXL could pull off this upset. And it was a close match despite that final score of 4-1. I truly think, I mean, every map I think was close, but in the end, Vancouver was just coming out on top. Um, Joe, why do you think in the end Vancouver was able to just edge out New York almost every map here? I mean, everything was super close, but it,
Yeah,
it just came down to Vancouver's finishing.
yeah, it's true that they were able to find that edge on lots of these different maps. I mean, and but it was it was just really good play, I think, from both sides. That there were some tank problems on either side. There's the when you get to like really high level, the play of the kind that we're seeing here. The tanks almost have to settle into like to complementary play styles of each other, and so there's a little bit of feeling out stuff there. I mean, between Mono and Bumper, and and just trying to read each other again because this is the first time they played, second time they played all season, I think, right?
I think first.
Maybe first. Oh yeah, because it's the one cross divisionals like in stage four, but
Yep.
um, yeah. So first time they played all season, but it was just a really good match. That you can't really say that there was like one team that like that New York messed up a lot. I think that it's Vancouver just had the edge here. I mean, we've seen how good they are, and New York coming off this win. I don't think it was that they were still shaken or whatever. I mean, it's both coming in with momentum and both playing it well. But yeah, Vancouver, I think just a little bit of the better team, honestly.
Yeah,
At
I think
least
this
the,
was.
the way things laid out here.
Yeah, I think this. I mean, this match, losing this match is nothing for NY. So I think it just proved that maybe they're a bit on the outside, looking at Vancouver and San Francisco Shock. But I think once they play each other again, which they will eventually, this could definitely turn out to be a closer match. And you gotta remember that this is Overwatch, and a patch can literally change the entire meta and who's good for a stage, which is crazy to think about. So nothing's set in stone here towards the end of the season, and they play in stage four. So this could be a completely different game once we see them. And that is, I did send Joe. I sent you a picture at some point of all of the fantastic games in that Los Angeles Valiant rivalry weekend. That is one of the games at the rivalry weekend. Um, but there are some insane like both. It's Vancouver has a crazy schedule because they play San Francisco and then they play New York. Um, so that's gonna be such a sick weekend. God, I cannot wait.
And that's what, like the last week of stage four or something.
Yeah, that's the last week of the season.
Yeah,
And you also have, of course, like the battle for LA, and and Hangzhou and Shanghai are going to be there too. They're playing each other at some point. And Boston versus New York. I mean, which is a classic rivalry too. They stacked this weekend.
absolutely.
Absolutely stacked it. Okay, let's go back. Stage playoffs. We talked about this already. Beginning of the show. San Francisco Shock won it all, 4-2. They finally earned it. It was a bittersweet moment, or it was a bittersweet moment for me as a Vancouver fan, but a person who has been watching the San Francisco Shock team grow, and I'm a huge fan of Krusty. I think he's the best coach in the league. I think we can officially say that now, that Krusty is the best coach in the league. He led to the Boston Uprising to a perfect stage, which was more impressive back then because that's like 10-0 compared to 7-0. He led the San Francisco Shock to an even more perfect stage because not only was it 7-0, but it was 28-0 map record, and now they won the stage finals. He completed it. Boston, of course, I think did not get too far in the stage playoffs when they went 10-0. I think they lost like right away.
I think so. Yeah.
So Krusty he's improving as a coach. I think he's got way better talent on this team than he did Boston. Um, And honestly, I want San Francisco to win it all just to show how important coaching is. So these other teams are looking for like management people and not just players, because I think that's an issue many of these teams have. Um, and many of these teams that are stuck, I think Florida Mayhem have picked up some really talented players, but I think their coaching's awful. I think that's their main problem.
And logistics, yeah.
Yeah, and logistics, and they're all over the place on choosing. I mean, the reason it's bad is because they can't decide on a roster. They've had so many talented players, and now we're going to talk about it later. But they've traded a ton of them here, and they've gotten rid of a ton of them, and they've gone for all Korean roster now. But they still don't know how to handle their players, and they don't know how to. They just don't know what they're doing. I want to see some better, well coached teams here in the future, and I think Krusty is setting the standard for that, which I'm super happy about. Um, Joe, we let's go kind of map by map here. I mean, we started off. I think let's go through the first three maps because I think it was San Francisco, of course, took Lijiang to 2-0 to start it off. They were looking really good, but I think talking about the next two maps, Kings Row and Paris, they're two pretty different maps because I think Kings Row was extremely even, and it was one of those maps where Vancouver kind of stinks on defense at first, but it doesn't matter because their offense is so good that they're able to also take the full map, and then they of course went twice around, and I think it came down to like an insane bumper earth shatter to win it all there at the end, right?
What doesn't though, really?
Yeah. But yeah, Joe, what'd you think of this Kings Row map at this point in the series? Were you thinking, oh, Vancouver's got this, or were you thinking this is another Game 7 series because these both these teams are insane?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember specifically with this map, but yeah, I mean, going into it, there was like no way that, or at least in my head, no way this wasn't going to 7 maps. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
this they've shown us too much, too much, excitement already here in this season for that. And granted, obviously, it didn't this series, but yeah, it was. I knew it was going to be super close, and it was, and back and forth and all this, and that's the kind of excitement that we're looking forward to with this season and these teams, and obviously um, more teams when they show up, and when they rise up to this level, because I think it's definitely possible. But um,
yeah,
yeah, I wasn't too shocked,
yeah.
even though in the end Vancouver was. It's funny.
Yeah, I really hope other people come up to the level, and it might take patches or meta changes to be able to do that because I think these two teams are so dominant at goats. They're just so good at it. Then on Paris, I mean, I was kind of again, I was like, oh my god, this Vancouver's looking really good, much better than the Shock right now, especially after Paris full hold on Paris, a map that San Francisco Shock chose for themselves because they have a record breaking offense on this map, but they got full held by Vancouver, and then Vancouver on offense plays a DPS comp, and just one Pharah boop off the map won the entire map run basically. But
And
yeah, I mean, what were you thinking after? I mean, I think anyone was kind of worried for the Shock there after that. That maybe that perfect record was a bit of a fluke, and they're even worse than Vancouver this time around.
yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, Paris sort of has been like a weird Paris the map, not Paris the team, but Paris the map has it has always been sort of a weird like outlier in this map pool already, just because it's new and like people don't know how to run it properly
Yeah,
and all this. And just assault in general, that people don't like so much because it's either super one-sided or it's or it'll go to 8 to 9, and there's nothing in between. Um, so yeah, it's uh, this particular one, super defensive, and that's in the one in the uh, depending on how you think about it, that's on one hand, even more exciting potentially, than a series that goes to round after round after round. It's I don't know, it's just a different way of
Yeah,
looking at things.
I like the full hold sometimes, but I do like the insane like 9 map or 9 point takes. Like I like those. I know people hate. I like watching 2CP. I hate playing 2CP, but I like watching it. Um,
That's what counts.
yes, exactly. But yeah, the Vancouver Titans full held here, but San Francisco Shack was they were not wavered. They were ready because they ended up taking the next 3 maps in the series, and honestly, they weren't dominant, but looking much better than the Vancouver Titans were looking shaken at this point, especially once you got to Oasis and Blizzard World. The Shock looked much better than the Titans. I thought this was going to be very similar to how things went in the last time these two teams faced off, and that Vancouver Titans were going to take map 6 after losing a couple maps in a row, and then take it to game 7. Um, but that didn't happen. They got held defensively, and because of some insane play by Sinatra, even after wasting his graviton surge and doing nothing with it, he built it up so fast. And there was some. This is the map where, like, I feel like at the end, Vancouver Titans had or at some point, the Vancouver Titans had so many alts, and San Francisco Shock had like none, that I was like, okay, they're gonna take the second point here, and they just didn't. Like I
They
think
just didn't.
the camera view was poor in that moment because I could not like see why they weren't killing anybody or like what was happening. I think I was like, what is going on? Because I just hear the Vancouver Titans using all of their ultimates, but nothing's happening on the kill feed, and I can't really see what they're trying to do. That's all I remember. That's my vague memory of that moment in my head, and I was like, Jesus, like. When that happens, it feels like the Vancouver Titans are throwing more than San Francisco Shock is doing well, but that's because all I could see was the Vancouver Titans on my screen. Maybe San Francisco Shock had a super good plan to counter all of those ultimates, but it seems like to me it looked like the Vancouver Titans just whiffed on like Shatter, whiffed on all these amazing ultimates, didn't get any kills when they used Sound Barrier or Trans. Like you gotta, it's just amazing. It's like I'm awestruck when a team is using so many ultimate abilities and I'm seeing nothing on the kill feed somehow. Um, but that's goats for you. The goats. I mean, you have graviton surge and you have earth shatter, but you need to be able to hit your earth shatter, and sometimes grav just you. I think Vancouver this game was also awful at killing San Francisco Shock when they had a grav, and San Francisco Shock didn't have a support alt. Like you gotta be able to kill people. You got to be able to kill people when they don't have like any support alts, and you're just grouping them all up. Like that's you just got to. Those are my
Yeah.
two biggest complaints about Vancouver, though. San
Um,
Francisco did fantastic.
for that last one, I was just gonna say, that that sustain even without the support ults, that's like on the backs of um, Violet and Slime, or not Slime, Violet and who's the Lucio player?
Um,
Moth, the Violet and
yes,
Moth,
moths. Yeah.
uh, off of San Francisco. That yeah, to be able to make the crazy plays that that actually require skill, rather than press and Q in order to survive through some of that stuff. I mean, that's significant, and that's the kind of stuff that you really want off of your support players. And I mean, that's like the goal of what they're trying to build over with Shock is the plays like there was one on Reddit I saw from Moth who got like a really aggressive boop from like a wall riding sort of hovering position on Gibraltar to kill someone Suzaria like immediately, and it's just stuff like that. That if you can end a fight before it even starts, and especially with your support players, I mean that's where lots of your value is.
Yeah. And I gotta give credit to Rascal too. I think his armor pack management is fantastic. I think Rascal's a really good Brigida. He's not like a killer. He's not on the front lines, but I think he does the Brigida's job super well, and that's communicating and stuff like that. Getting the right shield bashes and focusing the right people, giving armor packs at the exact right time that his teammates need it. Um, and I think specifically saving it for whoever Bumper is aggroing is huge because it Bumper will come out, he'll aggro somebody or something on their team to try to pick somebody. But I think Rascal is really good at saving armor pack for that person, and then Bumper. I mean, you just look at the fight, and all of a sudden, everyone on San Francisco's full health, and Bumper's down to like 100, and you're like, Vancouver just cannot win a fight when that's happening all the time.
Yeah, because then what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. Because they have to put all their resources into Bumper, and then San Francisco can get on the aggressive or on the aggro side of things because armor packs down, all this healing's down, so they can just move forward because they've got the advantage now. And I think that happened. It was sort of a mind game of that. It happened many times, and San Francisco has figured out the way to counter Bumper, which is most teams haven't figured it out. So that's good for them. But yeah, anything. I guess we should give our MVP of the playoffs and games to rewatch. We'll start with one game to rewatch. I think it's obvious it should be the finals because that's the best game by far. Um, so I'll say that one, and then Joe, you can give us if not the finals, if it isn't the finals, what should you rewatch, Joe?
Yeah, so I had picked two just because I didn't know which one you picked. So yeah, the finals definitely go back and watch those. It's you know you're like, oh, it's exactly the same thing as stage one. I mean, besides the winner, it was a completely different match from stage one anyway. So yeah, definitely go see that one. And then my other pick actually is the New York Vancouver match from the semifinals. So again, another Vancouver series, but again, just the quality of the game that was there. Lots of excitement, lots of really good matchups that we won't be able to see maybe until either the end of stage three or the end of stage four even. So
Yeah, I think that's a really good match to watch, especially in this season. Like you're saying, when we don't get to see those matchups too often. Um, So yeah, let's move on to MVP of the playoffs, which I have finally decided last second because there are so many good options um, on the San Francisco Shock to pick, and it's got to be the San Francisco Shock. Um, but I'm going Rascal after what I just my little rant on Rascal's fantastic Brigida play convinced me. Yeah, you know what? He does deserve MVP. Just for the reasons I was saying earlier, I think he's been fantastic at communicating on that Brigida. It's a very hard role to play as far as communication goes. I know a lot of people think it's very easy mechanical skill wise, and that's for sure. But it's all about timings. She's definitely one of those characters that it's all about timings of when you do things and what you save your resources for. And I think Rascal's fantastic at it. And I think that's all about good coaching as well with Krusty. Maybe I should give my MVP to Krusty. My most valuable coach is definitely Krusty.
there you go. I guess you could save that for next week when we do MVP of the stage.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean,
Well, that you
stage one.
just spoiled it, Joe.
It's true. It's true. I mean, stage one I picked a hero, so
Oh yeah,
it's
that's true. I could pick anybody.
yeah.
I'm gonna pick Monte Cristo.
MVP stage two. Well, I mean, maybe he'll be MVP of the talent game. We'll see. I don't know.
Oh
Is he
yeah,
playing?
true.
I don't even know.
Yeah, yep.
Okay,
Yeah, he's playing.
there you go. And I have an MVP pick as well. Also from the San Francisco Shock again, because it's really hard to not pick your MVP from the team that went. I don't even know how many and three maps this stage, like 30 something.
Yeah.
Um, so mine's going to Sinatra, Sinatra on the Zarya in particular. And this is actually the second week in a row he's gotten an MVP because you gave him stage two, week
Yep.
five last week. But I mean, Mr. 150K is really stepping into it. Um, and shown us why he was, so highly valued by the Shock even at the beginning of last season. Just super efficient grab like building. Even if it wasn't like ideally used all the time, but always there with grabs, always there with super high energy. I think their match against Hangzhou, he went like he only had like 5 deaths the entire match or something like that. Just ridiculously well supported and then also ridiculously successful Zarya player.
Yeah. I think Joe. I don't. I think you could not only argue that this guy deserves the playoff MVP here. I think you could argue that so far he is our season MVP. Honestly, this guy. I mean, Zarya is his hero. It's always been his hero since back on that USA roster when he was revealed. He's so good at building energy. He's so good at getting to that grab so quickly. He's great at shield management. I mean, I honestly do think he is the best player in this league right now in goats on that Zarya. I mean, barring I haven't seen the dude since I guess last season on DPS Heroes and not on Zarya. But we'll have to see if he stays in that starting lineup if there is no more Zarya play ever in this season, which is it's hard to imagine at this point because they've got Striker and they've got so many great players on the bench that aren't seeing play. So if Zarya is still meta and if Sinatra's still in the starting lineup, I think he's easily someone who could be up for consideration for that season MVP. Um, he's fantastic. He's so good.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to some news here. That's the end of stage two. We don't have stage three until like June. Um, do we know exactly when it starts? June 6th.
Stage three, yeah, June
Uh,
6th, I think. Sounds right.
okay, so June 6th. So we don't have any Overwatch until June 6th, unless you count the All Stars, which is today actually, Joe. That's crazy. That is in like 12 hours from when we're recording this.
Yeah, we're a day later than usual. So it's
Yes, yes, we are.
it's Wednesday? That's crazy. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how it happened.
It's also crazy that it's happening on a Wednesday, in my opinion, still, and not a weekend. It's just like, yeah. But I think it's just because they wanted to get it over with as quickly as they could and give these players their 3 week break, which makes sense.
It's true.
But let's move on to some news. Of course, me and Joe are college esports people, so we're gonna include some news about some college Overwatch. The TESPA Overwatch season was won by the Harrisburg Storm, which is notable because Joe Meister, he ended up a former Philadelphia Fusion player, correct, Joe?
Yep.
He's coaching. He's coaching the Harrisburg Storm. He brought that Overwatch League knowledge to the Harrisburg Storm and ended up winning the entire season. Um, so congratulations to them. Did you end up watching this at all, Joe?
I didn't know, but I kind of want to go back, honestly,
Yeah.
because yeah, they actually TESPA for all of their Blizzard games. They had like Hearthstone and StarCraft and Overwatch, maybe Heroes of the Storm too. I'm not sure, but they had a big a LAN event in the Southwest, like this past weekend, that they had a bunch of different tournaments. So Overwatch was one of them. They had like the top four, top eight playoffs. But yeah, so super big thing, and that was the first time they'd done it too. Like partner with ESPN and everything.
Yeah, that's great. Both me and you, obviously, we would love to see college esports go even further, and be put in the spotlight even more, especially for all those players who, all those great players who, not only are great at Overwatch, but also would like to get a degree and graduate from college. So
It's true.
I think we would both love to see that. All right, so let's move on to Havana is alive, and now it's off the PTR, of course. The map from Storm Rising, officially a PvP map now. I have still yet to see the PvP version of the map at all. Have you gotten to see it at all, Joe?
I haven't played it much in yeah, it's in the arcade rotation and the quick play rotation right now, um, but yeah, you can obviously go in and mess around with it on a custom game too. Have been for a while, but yeah, obviously we got the escort map type through the three pretty distinct points, which is nice. You know that there's not every map has the sort of variety that we can see, and that I think we will see on Havana when it hits. For example, the Overwatch League, which might happen stage three. It's hard to say. They haven't announced that map pool yet for sure, um, but yeah, it's gonna be cool. I think it's like we mentioned back when it hit the BTR. It's only a shame that they don't have the storm effects still included. But
Yeah,
it's a cool map. It's gonna be good to see. I think once it starts getting played.
yeah, I'm excited. Um, let's move on to some promotion news as far as contenders go. Trill from Team Envy, who was undefeated this season in Contenders North America. He is an Australian main tank for Team Envy, and he has been promoted to the Dallas Fuel. I mean, he's going to be behind OGE now, so I don't know how much playtime he's going to be getting because I think most people agree OGE is one of the best main tanks currently. So it's still cool to see. Is this our third Australian player
Because what
in the
it's
Overwatch League now?
Custa, uh,
Color Hex,
Color Hex is
Custa,
New
Trill.
Zealand though.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, they're
Or
they're the
wait,
same thing.
or wait, no, because no, that was who was that from New Zealand? I think it was Color Hex.
Let's see.
Uh,
Color Hex Wikipedia page.
yeah, he's
Yeah, it
from New
is New
Zealand.
Zealand. Oh wow. Well, I guess I was wrong.
Wait,
Um,
because I think he's like, that was notable because he was the first from that country to be signed. But yeah,
Second Australian player then. But New Zealand, obviously the same as Australia to us here in America, guys, because we're stupid. We're not smart.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah. But second Australian player, Ashley Powell, Trill. Um, do you think we'll ever see playtime out of this guy sitting behind OG?
Well, yeah, so this was sort of an odd signing for me. I mean, I made some tweet. I just said like, but why though? In response to this announcement, because I mean, yeah, because we had just spent this whole second half of the stage talking about how great OGE is, in the main tank position for the fuel right now, and to bring up Trill, who we know is great. I mean, we've seen him in the World Cup for the last couple of years, as well as now on Team Envy here in Contenders. But to bring him in on the same role as OGE is I guess not so much confusing, but just really an interesting decision um, from me, or to me from them. I think is fair to say. Um, yeah, so you can't imagine that he's going to get tons of playtime, but at the same time, presumably they had some sort of thing in mind for him. Uh, maybe they hoped to pick up somebody else in a trade. Maybe that's still happening. I don't know. But it'd be cool to see Trill again, just because of what little we've seen him in so far. But I just can't see that happening very easily. I don't know.
Yeah, for that to happen, OG's gonna have to get like a hand injury or have have like some mental problems or need a break. That's the only way I see that happening. But they could use him. I think he's probably a good main tank, and they could use him for trades or something like that. But it's also super like going into the Atlantic Showdown, which is coming up here. Super weird to make it so your contenders team is missing a player because they only have 5 players now. So they do need to pick someone else up just for that Atlantic Showdown, especially after your team has gone undefeated um, in that season and has a good chance to perform well in the Atlantic Showdown. So you might as well keep him there for a bit. I feel like, but yeah, that's all I gotta say about Trill. Um, so we had a big trade happen, right, Joe?
We did. It's true.
Valiant and Florida. But first, Florida actually got Byram from NRG before we get into that trade.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I forgot about that. Who's a flex healer, off healer. Byram from the NRG team, which is of course San Francisco Shock's contenders team, not Florida Mayhem's contenders team. That's that's a Mayhem Academy, of course. So interesting that they were able to get this from NRG. Of course, you don't see that too often, getting from a completely different contenders team, which obviously involves trading. So Florida continuing to bolster their roster. I guess we could include the trade too. We'll move and the trades between the Valiant and the Florida Mayhem, and includes some Florida Academy teams. It included 3 players going to the Valiant, and that's McGravy, Fact Fiction, and Shax. Of course, Fact Fiction and Shax from Florida Academy, and then you have Fate from the Valiant going to the Florida Mayhem. Fate, pretty good off tank, has been performing too well this season. So Florida getting Byram and Fate here. So you can't say they're not making roster moves, Joe.
It's true.
But yeah, as far as this trade goes, who do you think won this trade?
I mean, we talked about Florida before, and we're not sure exactly um, how they're making progress in the direction they're headed. I think we know the direction they're headed. They've been clear enough about that, but um, yeah, the addition of Fate, um, the addition of Byram, who I looked this up and I already forgot, is a support player. Um, that's something that if these are plans, clearly that Florida is acting on. There is value there. We'll start with that. But at the same time, um, I don't know why. Uh, Whatever. I won't rant about Florida. We've talked about that. You gotta hope that it's gonna bring success to the team, and that's the important thing. But adding Fate, we know Fate is a really good main tank. We know Fate is like never played ever, so it'll be good to see him back again here on Florida. Hopefully working with people like now BQB. Zephyr, I know, plays off tank roles there too, but that'll be a good addition. And then as far as Byram goes, I know Hagapen obviously is another really good support player, sort of the Zen Ana type player that we see a lot. So I don't know, maybe they'll be on some kind of rotation, or they'll be working up. Um, so,
There was something about Hagopin that came out on Reddit. I can't remember. It was something about his Twitter bio changing, maybe, or something that implied that
oh,
Hagopin is no longer on the Mayhem anymore.
I
Oh
remember
yeah,
seeing that post. Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't
He
think any of it at the
tweeted.
time, but
All right. he deleted the tweet, but he did tweet, "No dreams, no future left now, LOL." Has also removed references to Mayhem from his bio. That was the Reddit post. So, oh wait, he did not delete the. Oh wait. Oh yeah, he did delete the tweet. Okay,
Mhm.
but it has been quoted.
Yeah,
Um,
so I mean, we know how, he's a pretty good player for for Florida as far as that goes. He's definitely one of the stronger players on this roster. I think it's fair to say, up there with Saya player and that sort of thing. But so yeah, to lose him would be unfortunate. But I guess that makes even more sense to them with the addition of Byram here from the NRG.
yeah, it's his bio just says Overwatch Flex Spot. I think SPT. So
So support probably.
yeah, sport. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's losing Hagapin's not good in my opinion. I think
Yeah.
Florida Mayhem keeps getting rid of. They keep getting rid of good players for some weird strategies. I don't agree with their full Korean roster move because I think McGravy's great. I think they had some great players that they just had to throw to the side because they were like, "Oh, we want all Korean roster." And now they're throwing away some of the players that they they sort of had there for the all Korean roster, like Hagapin, who's fantastic in my opinion. I think they've got some talented players. I think they're awful at doing things with them. But I guess because since their strategy is, hey, we want an all Korean roster, they now can trade all of their non Korean players to other teams to get Korean players, I guess. Which is what they've done here. They've traded a bunch of, I think, pretty good like pretty good talent, um, and I think in Florida's mind, they aren't Korean, so they're worth nothing to us. So McGravy, Fact Fiction, Shax. I mean, Fact Fiction has been in the league. He was a backup for Muma, so I mean, Muma's one of the best. They're not going to start Fact Fiction over Muma, which was exactly what I said the moment they picked him up. Houston did last season, so I was like, why did they even do it? Um, so I'm glad he's going to be back in Overwatch League, and then I think Shax's good talent. He's Danish, and McGravy, when we saw him, looked pretty good out there. So I think Valiant got some good talent here for Fate, who has honestly been pretty subpar this season. At least last year he was great, but I think this season he hasn't been performing the best.
And it'll be interesting to see how, for example, Space and McGravy interact. If they end up getting run, in the same roster if we're playing goats. But I imagine usually you include some of your DPS players in there too, maybe on break or something. Um, so I can't imagine that they'll be playing much of McGravy over Space necessarily, especially here at the beginning. But
Yeah,
having Fact Fiction in there as a good alternate tank choice also over somebody like Kuki, uh, that's helpful. Definitely for the Valiant, and this is unfortunately another team that's been struggling, even with the Pacific Division, winning the Pacific Division last year. I mean, still trying to
mm-hmm.
figure out exactly what's going on. It's yeah, I think it is a good change for the Valiant. I think for sure.
Yeah, I don't think losing Fate's too big of a deal for them, and you got three players who all could have value in my opinion. So I think this was a good trade for them. I think for Florida, towards their strategy, it is a good trade. But do I think their strategy is necessarily the right one? Not so far. So we'll see. I mean, they have looked better. They have looked a little bit better so far, but we'll see if they can improve significantly. All Star. Let's talk All Star a little bit. I don't think we're going to be predicting anything with it. It's just a nice little fun event. We'll just go over briefly because the reserves have been revealed since we last did a podcast, which are players that actually deserve to be in the All Star game, Jack.
Yeah, probably. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think like almost all of New York Excelsior has made this has made the game, but I think it's fair because Atlantic has so far been pretty not as good as the Pacific so far. No, nowhere near as good. So you're definitely going to need all of NYXL on your roster there. Um,
For sure, yeah, they're starting six at least. Although I guess it's not their starting six because they've got Pine in there. But
oh yeah, yeah, it's five of their starting six
yeah,
with Pine. Um, and then on the other side, you got Violet and Sinatra making it from the Shock. Oh, and Super. And then you have Slime, Haxel, Twilight making it from Vancouver,
and Bumper.
uh, and Bumper. This is confusing to me. I don't know why they all
Yeah,
the Sun
the way they
movements.
grouped them is makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like it's not
Okay.
alphabetical by anything. It's not by role. It's not by team. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It's very confusing. But you have DM. Yeah. You of course have all these OGE, Decay, all these great names. That they've added. You got on the other side Dogman, Saya Player, Cruz. I mean, these are the faces of their teams. Making. Do I necessarily think Cruz is the best player on Paris? No. Do I think he deserves an All Star? Probably not. But I think he's been in like almost every interview for the Paris Eternal, and like is probably one of the only players that people know about on the Paris Eternal because of it. So I think there are a lot of players like that who maybe don't deserve to be an all star, but it's like, okay, everyone's going to know who this is, so let's put him on the team. And we need, and like, let's have someone represent this team because they're not represented yet, sort of thing. Is every team represented, Joe?
I
That's a
was
good
just
question.
I was just looking at that. There's three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Yeah, I think all 10 Pacific teams and
One, two,
uh,
three, four, five, six, seven,
maybe
eight.
Atlantic too. I think.
Yeah, yeah, Atlantic as well.
Yeah,
So every team has at least one. I think they were going for that. They wanted every team to have at least one,
because otherwise it
which
would
is
just be
tough.
weird if it was like 19 teams.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They just leave out like Florida. Um, I was gonna say Washington, but the fans actually voted someone from Washington in.
It's
So,
true.
Arc, of course. But yeah, those are. You can go check out the All Star rosters. We're not going to go through all of them, and I think if you've been listening to the show, I think you know that I don't take too much into consideration when I'm not giving these people too many honors here for being an All Star. But um,
And also
it's a
you
fun.
can see it tonight because it's happening
Oh
tonight.
yes, yes. I mean the main game's not happening tonight. That's tomorrow. But you can see All Star Arcade, Talent Takedown, Widowmaker 1v1s again. Tonight's like sort of the exhibition, like fun night. So that'll be a fun one. That's if you're on the East Coast though, you're gonna have to stay up really late on a Wednesday for that.
Yeah.
It's because it starts at 9 p.m. Pacific time. It's also on ESPN too if you want to watch it on TV, but only the Talent Takedown. They know we could go over the Talent Takedown rosters too, but they're nowhere on the website. I have to go on Twitter to find it. I feel like. Yeah, I don't know where to find it on Overwatch League website, but I think I can remember because there's an image. I think one team has Bren and Sideshow on the same team. I think Zoe, Puckett, Monty, and Doa are also on that team. And there's one more, but I can't remember. And then the other team is, or the Hex. Hex is on that team, and then the other team is everybody else basically, which is like Mika, um, Uber, and Mr. X. Who else is there? There's so many. There's so much talent.
And they're still doing it when it's three pros and three talents on each team, right?
No, they got rid of that.
Oh, and
Yeah,
and didn't
because
announce it at all, I guess.
yeah, they
Uh,
just they got rid of that because I think everyone agreed. The reason it was fun was there were no pros in that game.
it's true.
It was it was funny to watch bad people play Overwatch. Um,
And I think
but yeah,
they've
it was
got
also Yeah, go ahead.
I was just say I think they've got Dogman and Golden Boy and who's the other? It's another player casting.
Yeah, I
Uh,
can't. I haven't seen anything about that, but I
it,
do know. I have seen Golden Boy, the Golden Boy thing,
yeah,
but I don't know who.
I saw Dogman and then there's a third player too that I forget. But yeah, that'll be cool.
Okay, yeah, that will be cool. All Stars pickings. Maybe it's in this Widowmaker 1v1. Okay, so we have like players. We have like Pine, Nene, Carpe, and DM are all going to be in Widowmaker 1v1s.
Oh, if that's the reinforce article, he says he doesn't know yet. He's just throwing out
Oh.
names.
Oh, okay. Oh, come on, Reinforce. Tricking me like this? I'm embarrassed here on my own podcast. But yeah, this watch it tonight. It's gonna be fun. It was fun last, and you get two times the Overwatch League tokens for watching on Twitch. By the way, so you're gonna want to watch tonight, or at least turn it on. So you could possibly get those All Star skins if you'd like, or you can just spend them on your favorite team.
I
But
was reminded our very first episode of this show was the preview of the season one All Star Weekend, and now here we are.
oh, previewing season two, a lot worse than probably the first time we did it because we probably went in depth.
It's
But
true.
this time we're just like, it's just a fun event. Just go watch it. Uh, but yeah, let's finish it off with a new piece of news that I am super exciting for. Uh, it's Upper Deck. Partnering with Overwatch League. If you don't know what Upper Deck is, they make sports memorabilia, specifically trading cards. And now Overwatch League is going to have trading cards, as well as stickers, sticker books, prints, posters, and memorabilia. Upper Deck, it sort of focuses on all those different things, but we're finally going to get some trading cards. We're gonna be able to sell a Jonak rookie card for millions of dollars on eBay, Joe. But I'm super excited for this. I'll probably buy a couple packs here and there and see what I get because I really enjoy things like this. Quick memorabilia. I think as a kid I had so many baseball and football cards. Like that, as a sports fan, I loved collecting those things. And I'm big on cards. It's a nice little thing to collect, and there's also going to be rare cards apparently with like the player's autograph and everything like that.
Yeah.
So of course that's the whole drive of buying packs is like, will I get a rare card this time and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll be
Uh,
interesting. Yeah, just for the novelty of it, you're right. I'll probably pick up some myself. I saw somebody on Reddit, it had faked like a TCG that was going to happen with these cards,
oh yeah,
and that's not accurate. But yeah, it's notable, I guess. It's interesting, like the amount of like player trades that there are. I wonder if, for example, um, I mean, we're not going to get like for example an Unco Los Angeles Valiant card, but like something like that. I wonder if they would even make it like if it would be super rare or not, or stuff like that
yeah,
for the like month and a half he was on that team.
yeah. I really I'm excited for this. A trading card game would be insane. A game to go along with this, but yeah, I'm excited to just pick up a couple packs, have some cards. But that's all we got. I I I just wanted to put a lot of Overwatch World Cup stuff's happening. It's specifically like endorsements for coaches and stuff like that. And I just saw Krusty's for South Korea. And I like how I like how like in like everyone's little like thing they have like ways to describe them, and it's like name, country, region, and then it's like favorite hero, favorite map, and trait most valued in a teammate.
Or in a
But it's
team member, I guess.
yeah, leadership is what Krusty likes, guys. His favorite map's Hanamura. Not too many people could say that. I think people hate 2CP.
It's
So,
probably true.
but yeah, That's all we got for this show, unless you got anything else to say, Joe.
I don't think so. It's sort of a it's like we're in the off season, except we're not. But
Yeah.
uh,
Mid off season.
yeah,
Yeah, but this, yeah, I'm excited for a couple relaxing weeks before we get back into it. Especially for the players, they get a nice little break, so they deserve it. Social media. If you want to follow us on our personal Twitters, mine is at JWGeorgeIV. Joe's is at Kirkpatrick_Inc. That's INC. Our show has a Twitter. That is at On the Flank Show. You can email us on theflakeshow at gmail.com or tweet at us if you have anything you would like us to talk about. You're listening to this in one way. If you would like to listen to it in a different way, we are at ontheflank.podbean.com. My personal YouTube channel, John George, you're most likely going to be finding that on my Twitter page. We are on iTunes, we are on Apple Podcasts, we are on Spotify, and Google Play. Thank you guys for listening, and enjoy the All-Star Game.